Would you like a tip for helping your students learn from mistakes? I'm Dr. Barbara Blackburn, author of about 40 books, a consultant, a former teacher, a former professor. And today I actually want to give you 4 steps to help your students learn from mistakes. Because mistakes can really be a problem. Students can see them as a stumbling block, or they can see them as a stepping stone. And we want them to see mistakes as a stepping stone because mistakes are a natural part of life and learning. So the first thing that you want to do to help your students learn from mistakes is to stress that it's okay to make mistakes. It's really okay to make mistakes. A teacher in Arizona told me she had a bulletin board called Marvelous Mistakes. And when students made mistakes, they would learn how to fix them, and then they would get posted on the board and everybody would clap. A fabulous way to celebrate the fact that it's really okay to make mistakes. What we don't want to do is when a student makes mistakes, we roll our eyes or we go, things like that send a clear message to students that mistakes are not okay. So we want to make sure that we tell them it is okay to make mistakes. The second thing you want to do is to provide sample mistakes for students to identify. I used to have a problem of the day. It was on the board when they walked into my classroom, and their job was to figure out what was wrong. If I was teaching language arts, then they had to find the grammatical mistakes or the writing errors. When I was teaching in elementary school and teaching math, they had to find the math error. Allowing them the opportunity to actually find the mistakes teaches them, again, that mistakes happen all the time. One of the things that I love is if you can find a mistake in a newspaper that you're reading online or a website and use that and bring that in and say, here's today's example comes from this website. See if you can find the mistake. And then you get to celebrate the fact that everybody makes mistakes. Third, you want to use their mistakes to inform your instruction. So again, particularly when I was teaching writing, this was very effective. Whenever I wanted to model for them what to do, I would take a paper that had been turned into me. I didn't identify the student unless they wanted to be identified, but I would put it up on the screen and we would talk through the mistakes and how to correct them. And I would always say, you know, what I love is this is a real mistake. This means that I need to teach it a little bit better next time. But I love that we're getting to learn from someone's paper in this classroom. You can also save things from last year's class, save them this year so you'll have them next year, so that you can use them to actually show those real mistakes. And then finally, tell students about your mistakes and how you learn to overcome them. I remember when I was a professor, I was teaching graduate students. I had teachers who were coming back to get a master's degree. And they had to do a lot of writing in my classes. They were heavy research and writing classes. And one night I brought in a folder of material and one of my students came up to talk to me and said, "What is that?" And I just pulled it up, wasn't thinking. And I said, "Oh, this is an article I submitted." And they sent it back with all the changes they want. You know, they didn't take it. And she was amazed. She said, "You had something turned down?" And I said, "Oh, absolutely." I said, "I'm just going to fix what they want and then send it back in." She said, "Can I tell everybody?" And I said, "Oh, I'll tell everybody." And I showed it to everybody, told them what had happened, and they were dumbfounded because it never occurred to them that I could make a mistake. And then when I resubmitted it and it was accepted, I came back and told them that. So those are the kinds of things to do if you want to help your students learn from their mistakes. You want to make sure you create an environment where it's okay to make mistakes. You want to provide samples. You want to use their samples, and you want to make sure you show your samples. Would you like more tips that you can use tomorrow? Certainly like and subscribe us. I'd also love it if you put something in the comments. I like to read them, and then we all learn from each other.